Well, drop me a note and or put it in the chat.
Yeah, okay.
And I'll put my address in the chat
Okay,
and have her send me an email.
okay, great. Got it. I will send her a mail, okay?
Thanks.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's
Right
Friday
on
afternoon,
tune.
3 o'clock Eastern Time, where we meet in the Zoom Test Kitchen each Friday. I'm Jeff Widgren, your host, and I welcome, we've got Ray and Joe and Cohen, and usually others strolling in throughout this next 30, 60 minutes, sometimes up to 2 hours later. Sometimes we're here, sometimes we're not. But anyways, good to be here. It was going to be a much higher note in the sense that I had originally announced that we were going to focus on the new Zoom Events platform with guests from the Zoom Events team, but unfortunately they ran into a snag with their scheduling and availability with the parties they wanted present. So we will reschedule that, hopefully as soon as next week, but I'm still awaiting to get a clear date from them. So anyways, how are you, Ray?
I'm well, thank you. All's good here in Florida.
Very good. I'm in Kansas City. Cohen, you're
Yes.
our distant visitor.
Yes, I'm from the Netherlands. Yes.
Yeah, in the Netherlands. So
Well, I'll teach you how to pronounce my name in Dutch. It's Koen.
Koen.
Koen. Yes, that's
Okay.
it. Koen.
That's
Yes.
good. Koen.
Very
Translated,
good.
it means brave, braveheart.
Braveheart.
I
Very
believe
good.
it.
Kuhn, I will never forget. Kuhn, I can do. There are some pronunciations that are much more challenging to my tongue than that, but very good. Always good to have you. Joe, I can handle Joe as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to be hanging out and absorbing today. I'm not much in a participating mood.
Oh boy.
Actually,
well,
I'm kind of busy. I'll just kind of hang out and watch.
Very good. Well, good to have you here just the same.
Yep.
And Ward, you're here. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Very good. And Kurt Wright is back from a long break.
But it has been.
Good to have you back. You've done all kinds of things and moved and relocated and been to some dog shows with your dogs and all kinds of things since we saw you last.
Yeah, and I just finished a thing with Microsoft Teams, and you don't know how much you like Zoom until you work on Teams. Let me tell you.
I hear that feedback more often than not. You know, you kind of think, well, kind of the same kind of product with the same intention, and it's not. It's very, I don't know, tightly corporately tied, if you will, to the domain infrastructure and the security systems there, and it has always, for years, thrown challenges into connectivity at the very least.
That's exactly what we ran into. And they actually flew me to Seattle to do this event on their campus. And the security, I had to actually take one of the people's credentials and use it to actually become a producer, because you can't be a producer if you aren't connected to the organization you're transmitting to. We learned all that while on site. It was quite a learning experience, but in the end, it was successful.
Recording in progress.
Well, that is good that it worked out that way,
Yeah.
but nobody likes giving up their credentials, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had to take the ladies, literally sign into Microsoft Teams under her name.
Yeah.
With her stuff. It was crazy to have to do that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. There's admittedly there's a few criteria like that with Zoom. You know, if you're on a job gig that you are going to be using Zoom to stream, you will not be able to start that stream unless you are three things, and that is you have to be on a paid account, not a free account. You have to be the host, which most people would figure that would satisfy it. That doesn't satisfy it. You have to be the originating meeting creator or a host on a paid account in the same organization. And those who hold and are only used to like individual accounts, they may not even know exactly what that means. But if I and any of us, if we created a pro account, we're paying $15 a month, and we purchased a second account for another $15 a month, and made it part of our original organization. So now our billing has two accounts. That is somebody that I can pass host to, and they would be able to log in to configure and start the stream from Zoom. But if I were to pass host to Ray, who has his own account and I have my own account, you would not be able to start that stream. And so there's little nuances by design, but anyways, and when Zoom quits or if the host gets cut off, say I get disconnected unbeknownst to me seeing it coming, Zoom will roll host over to somebody, and most people would vote in that case. Would you want that somebody who was kind of per an algorithm voted into being the host to keep the meeting going? Would you want them to also potentially be able to start streaming publicly? And the answer is no. For most folks, they say no. In that case, I really wouldn't. And so that's why they've got that one locked down pretty good. So, anyways, what's new, guys? Any particular accomplishments, challenges, wants to know, things you'd like to dig into? Always open it up to the floor first.
I like just what you said there, Jeff. Is that printed someplace in the Zoom knowledge base? those three things that you just said, I mean, you made it very succinct. You made it very easy to take with you and bottle up and say to a client, this is what we're going to need to have to make this work.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Bear with me. Let me go to my email, which is where Zoom emailed me a link to that very document when I asked those questions.
Awesome.
And I will share that with you here momentarily. From, let's see if I can get.
Well, I don't feel so bad now that I've asked that question, and then knowing that you asked that question.
Yeah, well, I was going into a job with a provider who was providing for 3M, and it was a really, really large, almost 2-week event.
I know where you were.
And yeah, we were going to have to stream, and so I brought it to the company's attention that these were the requirements, and I just wanted it to not just be me saying it. I wanted it to be supported by Zoom officially for the answer, and so I got that. But we still had problems. They didn't take heed to my advice until they had to, and so the customer ended up having to copy and paste in the stream key information and start the stream, and basically, okay, well, that sounds like an okay thing. It's like, well, not really, because at the end of the day, you're handing over the liability of the stream being successful. If the stream has a problem midway, you can't fix it directly. You have to, kind of interrupt the whole program and copy and paste them some new credentials. And the other thing is that, I always start this off with a question: what is it that gets streamed, right? What's the source of the stream? And the stream source, the content, is from the host's machine. And so they, who were the client, which was also the speaker presenter, who has plenty on their plate while they're speaking, their desktop was also the source of what gets streamed. And so if they change things, or if we're co-host and we're spotlighting them for the audience and they don't like that view, they don't like looking at themselves and so forth, and they change it, it changes the stream. And so, it's figuring out all those nuances, and then the question is do they remain the source? And the answer is no. They can paste in the keys, start the stream, transfer host to somebody like myself, and then the source of the stream becomes my host desktop, and it does the source does transfer as well. And so it's just really important to know the details, right? And so we can be prepared to know, what's required of us and what we'll be able to do and not be able to do. Those are biggies.
By the way, gentlemen, since it looks like we've got a great group of people here with a lot of talent, I ran into a company out there that has many dates available for work if you want to work an hour or two a day when they have the dates. And I don't know if many of you have run into this, but literally this lady gave me 10 dates into October for basically an hour or two on each day, and that was it. But they supposedly have some other work, and I'm happy to pass along the information and name of the company, because I finally had to tell them I can't do an hour or two here and an hour or two there, block off dates that clients are going to come to me and pay me a full day rate to do an event for them. And I just still can't believe people are doing this at this point. It kind of aggravates me. It's like, really? You think? And they negotiated right with me, which I was not, I would think I would have gotten more hours, but it's crazy. And but I'm happy to pass it on if anybody's sitting around in the front of their. It'd be great if it was midwinter in Wisconsin and you weren't going to leave your room for sure, you know. But
Yeah.
Ray, I'm down here in Florida also. It's like I'm outside. I'm doing stuff. I'm not. I'm not going to just sit around and wait for an hour of work. But I'm happy to pass the name of them. They seem like a good company. They've got lots of people supposedly doing stuff for them, but I just don't feel valued at that rate. And I hate to put all this down and then say, hey, if somebody wants it, they can have it. But I'm more than happy to pass along the information, because it's just, I'm still surprised there are people trying to pay us for an hour or two, when if you're going to buy my knowledge and my equipment, you need to pay it at some kind of rate, I feel like. So just my
Do you have a minimum?
Yeah, I'd like to do at least a half day with people, and that's between $300 and $450 for that amount is what I would say would be reasonable for me to start looking at that kind of schedule. I mean, it's all over the board with these guys, but I mean, I've got clients that are paying me $1,000 a day to do stuff. So, and I think more what we should be at is about $1,000 a day, because I'm bringing all the equipment in. I'm bringing all the software. I'm paying for all this stuff. And, you know, I wish I could get everybody there, but it's hard. It's closer. It's easier to do that with end clients than it is with companies that are reselling our services, which is what I've run into.
Kurt, do you have original sound on? It sounds like we can hear like some background noise through your mic.
Yeah, I'll turn it. It's the cleaning ladies. They haven't finished yet. I'll turn off my mic and I'll check on that.
Okay. Yeah, it's tough to lock down a day or even block out a half a day when you're basically blocking out $500 worth of potential billable time at a minimum to finally figure out the one or two that are required of it, and as well, what I find is that there are often associated like pop-up rehearsals that they don't talk about ahead of time, and they add a little extra layer of challenge, and but feel free, Kurt, to share, or anybody here, if you want to direct message Kurt for that contact info, you're certainly welcome. That's part of the reason we're here is to build the talent, and it's certainly not to build it to do nothing with it. It's to build it to go work and earn some money doing it and so forth as well, and do it well. And so that certainly is welcome to be exchanged here. We've got some more folks with us. We've got Marcus has joined us. Welcome, Marcus. And
hey, Jeff. Hey, everybody.
Good to see you. Marty, as well as David Paskin as well. So thanks, guys, for joining us. I hope you got the message. I apologize if you didn't, but I did have to post a follow-up on the focus on the Zoom events platform today. I put a post out there this morning regarding a conflict and availability of a key player that was going to be here from Zoom, and so we'd rather do it right and complete than kind of half-baked at that. So we decided to last minute, unfortunately, postpone today's focus with the right experts from the Zoom events team, and see if we can't. I haven't gotten confirmation of next Friday yet, but that's obviously what we're aiming for. So I'm sorry if you missed that. But I hate making announcements. I was driving back home from Texas yesterday, and Holmes, Kansas, and got early potential wind of that then confirmed, and that was after I made the original announcement, and I'm just like, dang it, not making me look good right now, but we will get there, and I have questions about it. I mean, I think we all do, right? Like, if you have a single console, And that really usually alludes itself to somebody's going to build out the program, right? Beginning to end, meeting after meeting after meeting. Can I, under my account, create each one of those meetings and then have others go in and host them, because we know in the Zoom rules that doesn't fly very easily, right? And not that you can't go in and open them and pass host and so forth, or give your host key out, but I want to hear suggested best practices on that, and or do you is there a creation process that then delegates that out to, hey, Marcus, you're a speaker, here's the invite to build your meeting, we've put it in the master schedule, if you'll go ahead and put in the link in the description and so forth. So I'd be interested in seeing those details and hearing the suggestions and so forth. I guess they're just sequential events right now, not overlapping events as well, although that I know it's already in the menu as far as being able to do that, but you can't do it yet. So that's coming. Obviously it has to come for Zoomtopia, which is not too far away, and they'll have multiple sessions running at the same time. So we'll see if they'll be just using it, or if they'll actually have it released to the general public. And then licensing, of course. I've heard that from Denise, who some of you may have seen the post from Denise. She's a friend of mine. Oh, goodness sakes. I'm trying to think of where she's out of. I want to maybe say Budapest, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But several hours difference. I mean, I know one of the reasons she can't be here today is because of the Sabbath and so forth, and so there's several hours difference, and that certainly causes some absence here. But she started the Zoom Events Facebook group, and so she's got some posts out there and so forth, but she's certainly a friend of the Zoom Test Kitchen. I know that she has, I believe, a business account, business account 100, and when she did her purchase of Zoom Events Platform 500, she could only sell 100 tickets because of her baseline 100 licenses. Even though the platform that she bought into was a 500 platform. So it'll be interesting to see how what kind of clarity we can get on that as well. So look forward to those kind of details. And quite honestly, I think maybe possibly we make them nervous because our group here is pretty well informed and asks some pretty detailed questions, and I think they want to come in. Hey, hats off to them. They want to come in well prepared and do us well. So they certainly understand the value of being here and getting an early go of a community that has been doing this for I don't know, just over a year now, and dig into the deep details. So, Marty, how are you? Good to have you here.
Well, thank you. Nice to be here. I'm doing well. Loving the weather out here on the East Coast, and it's been nice and cool and warm and stuff. But currently working on some system designs for church upgrades, and a lot of these hold concerts and events that they sell tickets to, and so I've been interested in the Zoom event platform. So
Yeah.
we'll wait for them to get here.
Very good. Very good. Hey, go ahead and feel free, Marty. Tell everybody that's here about what what you do focus on the gathering of the community, the hybrid ministries that you host as well.
Yeah, so since the beginning of February, so we've got 22 episodes done, I think, right now. It's called the Hybrid Ministries Tech Forum, and Rabbi Paskin has been with us occasionally too. It is focused on the small to mid-sized churches who are doing their transition from all virtual services to hybrid services. And I use that term. Some people have used multi-platform. I use that term to mean a combination of live in-person from the sanctuary and pre-recorded playback and remote contribution and interaction between the congregants in the room and the congregants on Zoom, or the roomers and the Zoomers, being able to see and talk to each other and have live interaction that way. So that's the hybrid part of it. And these are for a large part, congregations and churches who have never done any kind of live streaming at all, not even audio live streaming. A couple of them have, but to a very small degree, without any degree of real urgency or importance. But that's all changed now. During COVID, it's really interesting. And one of the silver linings, if we can say that there are any, was that when the lockdown started, every church, every synagogue, every congregation on the planet had to instantly figure out how to become a television production company.
Yep.
And some of them did pretty well. Took a lot of experimentation, of course. Some of them never figured it out. They're still using one camera at the back of the room,
Yeah. Yeah, it's been, I was in timing wise, I had, in January, I had resigned from my management role at Dell Technologies, and just making a chosen, and coordinated internally. It was timed and understood in the whole bit to transition out and transition into, my next platform. And, IT, Silicon Valley has been my place for years, and not knowing what was coming, and it came. So it felt like I got fired, but I didn't get fired. I just couldn't go get anybody to answer a phone to get hired, and so I was in a really interesting place. I was unemployed, but it was going to be a while, and I could see and feel that, and I didn't want to sit around, bored out of my mind doing nothing, except spending retirement money and savings, and so I had actually decided to dig in. It was really actually the first time I started getting into Facebook groups. And they were really a lot of church and corporate media and so forth to just lend my skills. I gave a lot of time and knowledge. I didn't ask. I mean, some things eventually converted to, being billable, but that wasn't necessarily the intent. I was just really trying to avoid boredom and more than anything else. And I had been streaming for 10, 11 years at my church, and I thought, I have plenty of, knowledge to impart on them, but it hadn't been my full-time gig. And that, one thing led to another, in the sense of, creating, my own company and doing live streaming and sharing that. But I helped, organizations, churches, and pastors, didn't matter what faith, and from all over the world. And it really turned out to be a pretty fascinating experience, quite honestly. I think the churches, I do believe that I'm not too far off in saying the churches struggling the most right now are the churches who delivered the best productions to their congregations through COVID, and they pre-recorded and post-edited everything. And so they never learned how to live stream. and now they have to. If their leadership team wants to deliver live now because it's hybrid, they can't, they literally uprooted their chapels. They built studios. They turned the worship area into an area that you could no longer have people in to worship. It was unusable that way. It was full on studios, which was, great for production. But it was, I talked to plenty of people who were just overworked. Like their work demand was off the charts busy, like all day, every day to release, and oh my goodness, it was crazy. And they're the latecomers. They're probably the latest comers to having to learn how to now live stream, because now their expectations are sunk in really deep, really hard on the quality of what they had developed and delivered, and that's pretty hard to come by in a live production, right? And so I don't have my fingers really close to anyone in particular on that, but I know it's out there. I saw it coming, but what can you do? That's what they were prepared to do, and they created studios and literally turned into pretty developed organization that way. But it was going to transition sometime. So anyways, one thing that's not happening is, the world's not going back to exactly what it was. And we're in this really interesting middle ground of, what's it going to become? How do we want to blend it or separate it or scale down and scale up or whatever, right? But, corporations for sure don't want to give up the reach, right? It became borderless access. There were no boundaries. I say, a virtual event has no snow days, and it will always deliver. So you can guarantee that your production planning and readiness will in fact get delivered, where live events can't guarantee that at all right now, and they're very risky. So, and then my big question is we're going to do both, and given the right listener, if I'm talking to somebody who can take this question, it's like, all right, well, how much effort can you describe that you've put into the virtual delivery outside of putting Johnny on the back wall with his iPhone? Truly, because some organizations feel like if they just spend a lot of money on really expensive cameras, it'll be good enough for a virtual delivery. And I say that's not a whole lot different than sticking an iPhone in the back of the room, and turning it on. It, maybe there's a little bit better quality picture and audio and so forth, but it doesn't speak to the production, and if the virtual audience is meaningful, it does have to become a production. I take a successful hybrid event that's been around for many years, and I know Marty and I talked about this, is like NFL, just as an example. And I was talking to, the first time I heard Ed Willock say that, I'm like, really? And sure enough, you think about it, you go, it really is. There is a absolute live element, and there's an absolute broadcast element to it. And I would just ask, does the live audience, are they even aware, let alone care, what the broadcast is broadcasting? And the answer is no. Their event is their event, and the broadcast is their event, and they're truly two different productions with some common elements here and there, right? But I really think if an organization has to in fact have a hybrid event, it's going to take that to that separate / blended approach of creating two productions. I can see a live event. Concerts are kind of an exception to a degree, but take a large corporate event where they're taking a break and getting snacks and bio break and so forth. I mean, what is it, a standby slide, to the virtual audience, or is it that production element that says we don't want them to be bored, we're going to add a color commentator or maybe a 2 or 3 or 4 person panel while everybody out there's taking a break live. We're going to continue to feed the virtual audience some goods, if you will, and just really having that mindset of that production, this production, and then identifying the blended elements or the shareable elements as well. So it's an interesting place we are. Anybody else have thoughts about that? I looked up there again, Kurt, and you've had your hand up there for a while, so I apologize.
No problem. Hey, Jeff, that's exactly what I'm running into. And this is something else for the group here. Okay, most of us, I assume, looking at the pictures and everything, are one-man bands or small companies in this world of production. Am I correct in that assumption?
Here
thumbs
in this
up.
room, you mean?
Yeah, here in this room. Am I thumbs up about that? Is that about right?
Yeah,
Well,
I'd say that quite a few independents are very near. Often work with bigger groups,
Right,
but
right.
they're not under our ownership. Yeah, but it's a collaborative effort.
Well, one of my problems is I have a corporate client with 2 to 3 subsidiaries, and where I'm being pigeonholed is I'm going to Dallas. I've now moved to Florida full time, and now I'm having to go back to Dallas to do streaming productions out of the building to other companies because I don't have the administrative back end to create the websites, to create everything that Hopin needs as a platform or anything like that. I'm hoping this Zoom event platform can kind of give me the ability to do some of that back end, to create the ability to go to my client and say, yeah, we can take care of this for you. Their concerns are security. I mean, this is an internal only meeting. We want to make sure it's secure, but we're not sending invitations not only to XYZ company, but we're sending to Bob's warehouse. We're sending to Steve's warehouse. We're sending to, franchisors of our product. And so it's a mixed group. So that's one of their biggest concerns. And I'm trying to find a way to be more than just a one guy trying to, I've got freelancers, I've got people I outsource, but I don't want to go to another production company and drop this in their lap and have them be, my back end and lose the client because they're taking off with it. I mean, this particular client's been working with a company called GenieCast, and they've got enough bandwidth to do all the back end, but I'm getting real tired of seeing them because they seem to do a whole lot, but they've got enough, people. So any help on that end, I mean, I was hoping that, to see this, to be able to come up to them on Monday with an answer and say, yeah, this is what we need to do, because I do like using Zoom. I find it much better than a lot of other things out there. And it's easy for clients to get in. And we did a webinar specifically for this client that went out to 50 large investors for them. And it was all private. It was all very good. And they were very happy with the way it went. I'm just, trying to figure it all out and get the backing to do it. So,
yeah.
Why do you, what is it about the production that requires you to be there in person?
Because we're in their corporate headquarters and we bring in the presidents and the VPs and all of that and film them live in there and put in sets for them to be behind and in front of. And we basically build television studios in their location using some of their equipment and stuff. So it's not like these people want to sit behind cameras. I mean, they have, in June, I did 2 meetings and there was a third one, and I had to basically let it go because I didn't have the bandwidth to be able to produce the third one. But I had 2 concurrent ones going on, and we put in a 3-foot tall stage by 16 feet deep by 20 feet wide and placed it in front of one of their 10 by 16 LED screens that's raised off the floor, and basically put a stage in front of a big screen. And they said, we want it to look like the Ellen studio. And that's what we made it work for them. But I've had various budgets with these people, high and low and all over the place. And I know when they bring in somebody like GenieCast, they're paying in the $40, $50, $60,000 for them to provide that back end support that I haven't been able to put my finger on to figure out how to do to grab that piece of it. You know, there's a lot of little positions that I don't have filled. And, you know, for years I worked, I was able to fill it, you know, live I can do. I've got all the people in the world to fill up a live show, but to do all the back end administrative, I don't have secretaries. I don't have people that can send out emails all day long and, you know, create website parts and pieces. And, you know, it's kind of the biggest challenge I have right now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's staffing, and it's not that the staff, the talent, the skills don't exist. It's you know what what I'd say. Well, what I think I heard was you also haven't had the time enough to identify like the communities that have those databases of skills as well, right? Because you know there are very few people who are exceptions to doing, you know, contract work, right? And I mean, I went down to Texas to visit family in the last few days, but you know, while I was there, my brother-in-law had an old friend that we both knew from years ago happened to come through town, and the reason they were coming from like North Carolina back to California where they live was his wife works for Hollywood and has for years, and but they had been out there in North Carolina for like 6 months. And she does, you know, contract, you know, freelance work for them as an accountant. She is the one responsible for the accounting of the entire shoot, everything from, you know, every expense and dollar that gets spent. And she said, I'm usually the first one there and the last one to leave because, you know, the money never stops flowing. And so, but she's, you know, she's not unionized. She's, you know, she's a freelancer, and, you know, for that, and there's others, and it's just finding the groups, and commonly there's groups of, you know, communities like the Zoom Test Kitchen that you know, have their specialties or focus and so forth, and you know, you're part of Nancy's group, you know, the Tempo Live events. I mean, that's one of them, and you know, Ray Harris is part of a podcast that you know, has a women's skill focus in the business and so forth as well. And there's just a bunch out there, but you know, then it's availability, right? You know, first thing you always ask, are you available on, you know, these dates, and but getting them all, it sounds easy. Well, you just pass the cost on, you know, determine what you need, who you need, and how much they cost, and just pass all the cost into the job. But gathering all that data is, you know, challenging, and you're trying to gather all that and really wish you could get a commitment out of them, but by the time you gather it all and get it onto a proposal and get it accepted, that could be days or weeks. And now the people that you asked are no longer available because they've had other commitments come in the meantime. So yeah, it's a bit of a shuffle for sure.
Yeah, it's one of the challenges they've given me, and I was supposed to have a call yesterday about this, believe this or not, is that we're going to do a main session in a meeting room, and we're going to do it live, and then we're going to stream it out. They haven't decided how they want to do that, but I'm shooting towards Zoom because of my familiarity with it. And then she throws into me, well, we're going to do some demos in two or three rooms in the building with our products, and we just want to stream those out from there too. And my question to her that generalized the phone call that was supposed to happen yesterday was, what is your expectation, and how do you feel, how do you understand the technology is going to work? Because I can't just, I mean, it's all text messages and emails going through is, oh, well, we're just going to send a cameraman over to this room and they're going to video this and it's just going to appear on the stream. It's like clients have no concept of what it takes. And being on their internal campus, I have to have special computers to even be able to get out of there because it all has to be domain controlled, or I can't. I've got to send all mine through theirs in the first place, and there's only so many of those.
Yeah,
it's crazy what clients think sometimes.
I had a premiere event. They're a cable show called Heartland Bow Hunter, and they're out of the area. I didn't know who they were before, but they premiered their 14th season and we streamed it, but they also had a conference room set up for 1,000 seats. And so it was, kind of a combo, but they had vendors there as well. And they wanted that footage from, vendors, the line of people to come in started at about 12 o'clock for like a 6:30 p.m. Opening. They started lining up and they didn't even have like security people or locked doors. They just stayed out there. I'm like, that's amazing that they did that for you. But it was all just courtesy. And but they wanted that footage, and they had a VIP portion of it, VIP room going early, where they were allowed in and had drinks and food and music and all that. And so I did take my Canon, and we did some mobile shooting, but it was pre-recorded, but we kind of not, it was mostly, the script was an understanding, but it wasn't a hard script, right? But it was understood that, this is meant to appear live, right? Even though we're replaying it. And they gave me about 30 minutes to edit it between being done recording and actually having to start that, because there was this big gap between, no, there was a big gap, like almost an hour before like the actual online premiere, the actual movie premiere would start. So we had to fill it with something, and so we did. And but it was pre-recorded. But the last two segments, like we were going to go out the door and check out the crowd, and or actually open the doors. We had already done the crowd, and the guy on the mic says, "Oh, it's 6:32," and he like stated the time. It's like, you can't do that, like it was, it totally blew, because I was playing it at 7:40 or whatever, and so that blew it. And then there was one other reference. So we almost got it. And so either planning for pre-record or a whole lot of challenge, because you move cameras out of, from rooms to rooms with cinder block and all that in between, and wireless HDMI probably isn't going to work very well in those circumstances, and all kinds of infrastructure challenges. So having time to talk about it, right? And Zoom, getting back to Zoom a little bit, I think Zoom is a great platform in the sense that, it's a good gathering point, because one thing we don't have to worry about in the work we're doing is getting people connected, and Zoom's done a great job in allowing people to use their Chromebooks and Androids and iPhones and Macs and PCs and all the different devices out there, so they can connect anywhere, anytime, and so that's a biggie. And we really have to remind ourselves. I remember when we first started doing this, and the stinking clients are telling us they have to do Zoom, and most of us were really resistant to it, but the fact of the matter is it saves us a ton of trouble potentially on getting there, let alone content issues, when it can be there's a whole lot less hoops to jump through with copyright. And I'm not suggesting skirting copyright law as it's written and so forth, but to be able to, legally use copywritten material in a private meeting is a whole lot easier to get done and accomplished, and they're used to it, because I don't know that there's much different between using it in a private conference room setting than there is in a private Zoom meeting. But Zoom isn't going to shut you off like a YouTube or a Facebook platform will, that have these copyright algorithms running all the time, and they only have a certain amount of accuracy as well. You may have thought you went through and jumped through all the hoops to make it right, but at the end of the day, it wasn't properly whitelisted, and you didn't come in with the account that they whitelisted you on, or whatever the case may be, right? There's all kinds of things that can still get you and literally kill the stream. Not just, maybe give you a nick and a warning, but stop the stream. I know there was, I think it was Victor was doing one of his Sunday Sax jams, and Facebook. It was when he was doing it on Facebook, and Facebook stopped letting anybody no new sessions, but everybody who was there could continue. But you couldn't continue and do much. You could watch and listen, but like if you tried to chat or if you refreshed your screen, poof, you were out. I mean, it was like stay still and you can keep watching, and no one else could do anything new or show up. And it was because of a copyright hit of some sort. So and they're kind of changing the way they react, right? And whether how severe it is or how light it is and so forth, but that's not going away. So I think Zoom and some other platforms that keep your meetings private are a big benefit there as well. It removes a lot of risk and some complexities as well. So anyways, I think there's some great things. And so live event or Zoom events, it had to start somewhere. And I think that's where we're at, is this first release. And I think we, thank our lucky stars that, they've done it now with Zoom. They've used it with Zoom Academy. I'm sure they've learned a lot from that experience. They're going to be using it for Zoomtopia, which is got to be a massive undertaking. And it's not everything. I mean, Zoom Events is definitely not a production tool, right? Just a multi-meeting management tool with a registration, paywall, and so forth. But they'll push themselves even farther and harder, and they'll be using, whether it's OBS or vMix and Zoom OSC and Isadora, and they'll be using all the tools we are familiar with using to make many of those sessions happen the way they need to happen. So we'll see what it all shakes down like. I know I published the video I recorded of even just the registration process for Zoomtopia, so that experience is clean, simple, easy. It's worldwide. It's not US only. That was a biggie. And they have some different pay options as well. So good stuff. Ray, I think you had your hand.
But both to what was said earlier and what you were talking about, television production expectations from the churches who went heavy into broadcast 2, 3, 4 years ago. In the case where the client wants to do these pickup remotes, somehow there's got to be an understanding of the client that it's just not a switch that's turned. There has to be communication, there has to be interconnection, there has to be backup, and it's very hard. It's very easy for me. It's been easy for me to convince the client in those situations to pre-record. You also can't tell when you throw it to another room in the building how long these people are going to go. You can't stop them conveniently. You're losing the production. And while this is a very intimate phone call, would they just accept a phone call from that other room if you couldn't talk back to them and you couldn't control them? So the answer is no. the complexity, it also includes risk and cost. And so with those things, I'm pretty good at convincing the client that those things are better off pre-recorded.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, and
Ray,
that's exactly
Ray,
what
I
I've
don't
got to
think you're
bring up to
using
them.
your microphone.
I'm sorry?
I don't think you're using your mic.
Yeah.
No, it
we
was-
don't. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
we don't hear that. You
Thank-
sound pretty roomy.
Thanks, Marcus. That must be, I have the new Huddle Cam installed, and I guess it took that camera. Thanks for that.
Yeah, Ray, I think you hit it on the head, and that's the first thing I said to them. Can we do pre-records? And what I've got to convince them is that we can do pre-records, and I mean, they're not going to interact with people during this segment. They're just going to show this demo anyway. So all they have to do is the presenters just need to be on the chat and chatting back and forth, answering questions that way, because there's no way I'm going to do a live demo and those people are going to be responding back live, talking to people. I mean, that's, and that's the problem. We have a corporate client that has no idea other than they've talked to Molly or they've done inter-team meetings on Teams. What happens when you start doing a larger production kind of event, meeting, anything? If this was live, we'd have the similar problems. Is, okay, you want to do something live in another room, we've still got to communicate to them, we've got to tell them when to go, we've got to do all this. A friend of mine coined a long time ago that all streaming is a live event with a streaming component into it, because these really are, the problem is people aren't planning these things 6 months out,
But it's not a television production.
Right.
That's the risk that we have. Now, the reason Zoom OSC and all these other accoutrements that have been added to it are being so successful is because people are now so used to this that they want the television production mode to return without understanding how complicated it is and costly it is to deliver it.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, you actually can do these pickups from different rooms in these demos with live interaction, provided you have the infrastructure and the equipment set up in each of the rooms. But one thing I wanted to clarify is, were they thinking that they would be doing these multiple demos all simultaneously or sequentially?
No, they'll be sequentially. The problem is you've got to remember, I'm in a corporate building with a corporate infrastructure. These are not going to be rooms that are 50 feet away. So I can't run an SDI cable to most of them. If I want to do it, let's say we do it as a Zoom transmission out of each room.
Mhm.
I have to have a camera, operators, a computer there that is domain licensed in that company to send out to Zoom, and I need a hardwire port that's open in that room. So yeah, I mean, these are all the things I got to explain to them because they have no idea. It was just an off comment of, oh, well, we'll send a cameraman into these 3 demos and one of them can move around. So they have no concept that all this has to take place. And as Ray mentioned, communication is going to be a key. I mean, and I really don't like a lot of the online communication modes for, like we do in broadcast. If we were in a live room, we'd run comm to them. I'd run a comm line all the way over.
Yeah,
You
well,
do have an
Discord
advantage. Go ahead. I'm
Discord is-
sorry. Marty, go ahead.
Discord has proven very useful for back channel communications because you get the text as well as voice if you want it, and video if you want it, from any device that you have. Could be a phone, could be a tablet, a Wi-Fi, doesn't really matter. They all work. So for back channel communications, which is, I agree, really important, that's a really effective and inexpensive way to achieve communications. But yes, you would have to specify that. And if they're so tight on IT, I would have them I would make them responsible for getting a computer in each room that's properly wired and configured, right? I wouldn't have you think of you being responsible to conform your computers to their requirements. Let them take care of
Oh,
that and
I
provide you
believe
with
me,
a laptop.
so far, I only have two Macs in the building that I trust to do this. You know, everybody else has got these standard little bitty laptop IBM machines.
Right, but
And that's,
wouldn't
yeah,
you? I mean, if it were me, I would
yeah.
send them a list. I
Oh,
would say
yeah.
this. I need this in each room that you want to do a demo in. It would include a
Mhm.
computer with these specs, a
Mhm.
hard wire,
Yeah.
a camera that connects to that computer one way or another, um, and a
And
microphone and et cetera, et cetera. Create
I,
that list.
and but they don't have the infrastructure to do it. They fired all their video and AV people, which there was only one or two. That's why they bring me in.
Okay.
I'm their contact for all this. They have no concept of how this works. I'm dealing with
Well, it's
administrators.
easy enough for you to
Yeah,
provide the audio and visual
yeah,
through your freelance network,
yeah.
but it sounds like the computer is the difficult part. Well, what they're making the difficult part.
And I'm going to
We,
work through it. I mean, it'll
Kurt,
take time, but
Kurt, we were in-house at a little amusement park between you and I here near Orlando in 1970, 71. And I learned something from Disney Imagineering that I'll never forget. And it helps in selling any project. The answer is yes. Given the right time and the right material, we can move this building 3 feet north. So that's where I agree. Give them the list. Yes, we can do it.
yeah,
And these are the costs involved.
yeah.
Let it be their decision to change the way they look at it or have them provide something. Because I don't like to say no to any client. It's yes and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. You guys are really solidifying where I'm going to go with this. I mean, my first conversation with them is just trying to get an understanding of what they think this is going to take. Then I'm going to roll out. This is what I need to have, which is, Marty, like you said, I need their computers. I need them set up, and you need to provide the ports for me in these rooms. And then, Ray, it's like you said, I hate to say no. And I had to say no to this client once because they wanted to do projection across the walls of their meeting room that was 15 feet tall with no 220 power and none of the ability to do what they wanted. And I finally came down to, okay, it's $50,000-$70,000. Now you tell me if it's going to work in your budget. And that's when they started looking at it going, yeah, no, it's not so nice.
That helps them. It's that
Yeah.
balance between time and money.
Yeah.
We can move this building 3 feet north. And that gets their attention right away.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what was fun is I was dealing with an art director that pasted two photos in a picture of the room and said, this is what we want to happen. And it's like, yeah, until you decide that, I said to him, I said, you don't have the power. Oh, we'll get the power for $13,000. And then they started thinking they were solving the problems and they really had no idea where it went to. But
That's one of the challenges with some company. I did a job. It was a production job for one of these big multifaceted consulting firms. High power consulting firms in DC. And this was it was a promotional thing, that community thing that they were doing. It was a contest for kids, and they were bringing in all these kids, and it was high profile for them. And we were shooting it, and it was being a live webcast, and there were a whole bunch of wireless mics, and because there were groups of people, I had to set up shotguns on stands and stuff, and these like junior consulting, people fresh off the boat out of school, they come in after we're set up and said, well, let's see, that microphone can't be there because, we don't want to see it. And that light is in the wrong place. And the camera has to be in the back of the room and, all this stuff. And it's like, why are we here? If you know all this stuff, why are we here? No, but it's like, and sometimes I have to have a frank and private conversation with some clients. It's like, you're hiring me to tell you what it's going to take to do this. So what I'm interested in is only what your vision is for the outcome. I don't need you to tell me how you think it's going to work, right? Just tell me what your vision is. I'll tell you what it's going to take to do this. That's why you're paying me.
It's a big
Yep.
key, Marty. Could I step in here for a second?
Yeah.
I hope you guys can hear me okay. Even ourselves working on a high profile event this coming fall for the Public Health Institute, what you'll find is that sometimes their expectations aren't as high as our own as AV professionals. And they may not want this peak, highest quality, best performance context that you can possibly build for the price you're going to offer. And they're willing to come back a bit, because even in our case, where we're going to have 65 speakers talking over 2 days period, up to possibly as high as Dr. Fauci himself, we're not certain yet. But this comes down to what capabilities we have at each individual point, each individual speaker's point. They may not have the ability to get a PC or a studio, or less than, or maybe any greater than a laptop, in a cabin somewhere in the woods. So you have to live with that and accept the fact that your client's going to also accept that fact. And in the end, the production went really well for us last year, and I expect it to go again really well this year. But we are going to limit ourselves in the quality of the broadcast simply to produce something that will get the message across, rather than worry about the AV specs that we expect for the highest possible quality broadcast.
Yeah, no, it's true. It it's important to identify the expectations of the customer, and have their description be meaningful enough to truly understand. When we get asked for certain things, the next day and following, that we know what the target is, right? And then when things adjust, when somebody has to take a $80,000 budget and cut it in half or something, that there's a conversation, not just a attitude, right? That actually helps the customer understand, because what's seldom defined when there's changes from the customer is, or they requested, whether it was a no or a change of some sort, is the expectation. So has a known expectation actually been described and delivered to the customer as well? Because those can be disastrous. Like if they still think they're going to get this quality delivery or smoothness of switching, when you really demanded a $50 an hour Zoom tech, and they're switching with a mouse without OSC or any other tools that make things better or whatnot. That's where they get highly disappointed, because we didn't really properly clarify the change of expectations that was necessary to understand. And the same thing is, because sometimes when we take that time to help them understand what those changed expectations will deliver, sometimes they can go find the money, because it happens to be a change that they can't accept, right? And or they at least are adjusted, and things go well. And like Leland said, it may not be our favorite delivery, but fact of the matter is it may be perfectly acceptable, for the customer. Standards have dropped, that's for sure. I'm not saying that it should become our common guide, but what people wear in front of a camera. What I was on a gig, and it was a sales training meeting, virtual sales training meeting. Not only the training meeting was virtual, but it was about virtual sales, and the benefits, and advantages and things you should pay attention to, and so forth. And the two trainers couldn't have looked more like crap at the end of the day on their own cameras and lighting and so forth. It's like, are you kidding me? And they had a section on it. They like covered the content, but they didn't exercise it in their own world, you know, and so it was really pretty mind-boggling in the sense, like the bandwidth from one of the trainers was horrific, and when we did a tech check, and I just clearly came out and said, hey, I'm telling you, you cannot share your own PowerPoint. You don't have the bandwidth to do it. And I said, and if things go really wonky, I would suggest you turn your camera off so that your messaging is still delivered, because the camera is the bigger hog of the two. And I know people, you know, kind of, oh, well, even Ed will have somebody go on their phone to connect in, you know, for the audio instead. But you know, when you got a camera consuming that much and an audio line consuming that much, I'd rather get rid of the biggest offender and enhance the quality of the message itself. But somebody else did share and so forth, and so it's just, you know, it's one of those things we have to be really, really aware of. But
Like in our case, Jeff, what was interesting is we did this as a templated Zoom into a Zoom webinar last year. And we were definitely hoping to up the production value and ability that we were going to use the newest tech available, less those beta programs that are out that aren't quite, you know, they're still under development. So what was surprising is that this is a 503, you know, they're coming to us as a org, and they're saying, we don't have much of a bigger budget, so let's do the same thing we did last year. We were happy. We're good with that. And it was like, okay, great, we'll do that, but let's try to fix this and try to fix that. That didn't work well last year. So we did that, but I think we're still running into that same issue. No budget for bigger cameras, bigger audio, nothing of that sort. So we have to deal with the budget that we're given every year annually by the Public Health Institute. So it kind of works that way. That's all we can do.
yeah, yeah, unique challenges for sure. Well, as far as Zoom is concerned, I had some release notes in front of me somewhere. Here we go. Yeah, I'm just looking back, because there's always, like, you know, usually every week there's some release notes that something came out and changed, and unless you're really paying attention to it, and I don't always, but and also, you know, get some ideas of what's coming. You know, like there's some release notes for tomorrow that look like they're strictly tied to Active Directory sync tool and so forth. So it's more of a corporate security enhancement there. But there, you know, there's some that are certainly larger, and that's where some of the small little bugs, you know, get fixed and quietly announced. And I'm looking at this, the second, August 2nd says, for the website of things, says resolved an issue regarding the default selection for the setting that determines which participants or who participants can chat with in a meeting. The default setting has been reverted back to allow participants to chat with everyone and anyone directly. So that default option has changed. And if you felt like it had at one point, it did. And they've reverted that back to defaulting to everyone and anyone directly. So be one of those options that, yeah, we can change it and you know, at the beginning of a meeting, but if we don't, it's at a setting that they felt was probably the most popular as far as feedback, probably from their help desk, to a lot of upset people that it changed in the first place.
Yeah, Jeff, today I noticed on OH that I could text to everyone in the chat as a panelist, but I could only send direct messages to like 2 people on the list, and I couldn't type in names to get to anyone. So is there something I'm missing here that is a setting, or is like a bug or something in the chat?
I would say I don't think it can. I mean, the choices are, you to no one,
Setting. I'm not
to
setting on
everybody
mine.
and anyone, and then to hosts. And when they say host, it's host and co-host. So my guess would be the two that you could write directly would have
Or
been the host and co-host,
Okay.
and that would
Makes sense.
that would be my guesstimation on that. So yeah, it has places to go. I think chat, it would Q&A, is more defined, if you will. Chat, man, chat's a mess when in big meetings. And a meeting last week or week before that had like 600 people in it, and when a speaker asks a question and asks for feedback, it's like a race, I mean, you can't possibly read it because everything goes by so fast. You can't even gain a determination of kind of the overall feel. I think polls work really well for that. If you're going to ask a question and really want to know where the audience leans, if you will, towards red or blue or whatever, do it in a poll so that you can actually see a live gathered average result of what people are feeling. I had posted, this was an interesting thing. Let me even bring this up as far as just sharing with you like a interactive exercise. I didn't create it. I just was the admin in the meeting, and when I saw it, I'm like, that was quite cool. It was just kind of wild to launch. I don't know that, I think the meeting was a little too large for the results, but at the same time, I think it has a lot of promise too. So here, I've got it up now. I'll share this screen. And let's see if this, it's at 1080. Okay. So this gal who was running this is a slide that she had in her presentation. And so when she got to this slide, and I just took a picture, literally like took a little bit of video clip on my monitor of this, because I really wasn't thinking about it till I saw it, and I should capture this. So she had the slide up, full screen share, and right before this slide, I had sent her a slide that she could insert that had kind of just a 2-step introduction to how to annotate. And so it really got everybody prepared. I was shocked at how well everybody all ended up using the red X's. It's like, that's a sign of really good preparation in a sense, because everybody went through exactly the same steps. So anyways, so, for every horizontal line from formal to informal, impersonal to personal, and so forth, it was just, there was like, I don't remember how many people were in this meeting, 300 or so. But anyways, Joe, I'm like, how's that happening right now? Joe's annotating. But with that, it gives them that ability to kind of put 1X on formal and informal, which way, I would lean left or right, and personal and so forth. But then you add that up to hundreds of people in the meeting. And I think there's too many in this meeting to make sense, but you can imagine some sections getting really dense, and giving you an idea of some really well-weighted areas. But you can tell it's live because all the name labels that, pop up and so forth.
Yeah, I don't think we use whiteboards effectively enough, Jeff, and Zoom as we should when it comes to annotation. And I think there's a lot to learn there that we're missing. It could be used creatively to do interactive content and collaborative content with others. that could take Zoom meetings to a whole nother level, honestly, in a
Yep.
sense.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think annotation is very powerful. And what I'll here, I'm going to rewind this, and that's their starting point. You guys can annotate right now if you want to, but the part that I'm, once you invite it, then people start using it all the time, freaking everywhere, on every slide where they even shouldn't be, and so forth. And you have to get your speaker prepared, because they're the ones in control of this. The one that's sharing can do this. So if I pop up my toolbar, which you can't see, I might be able to drag it over there. Can you see the toolbar on top of the share now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm the one sharing, so I can pop down this toolbar and click on the More button. So when your speaker is not on a slide that should be annotated, they can go to the More button and they can disable annotation. Now nobody can annotate until you get to a slide that you want people to be able to annotate on, and then you can go back, the speaker can go back and enable annotation again. And that's
But where do I find the annotation? I don't. I have reactions, but that's not annotation.
the annotation should be on the top of the screen share. A button,
Oh,
button
there it
and a
is.
toolbar
Annotate.
there. Yeah.
Wow, way to hide it.
Yeah, it's kind of tucked away. A lot of people don't, really, leverage it much, but for the ability based on, the graphics or the graphs. I mean, if you had like a pie graph and that was hollowed out pie slices, and you wanted people to check inside of, the one there, or the bar charts, or whatever the case may be.
It's a built-in telestrator for Zoom, honestly, when it comes right down to it. If you wanted to mark
I mean,
anything or any video you're sharing, you could use it.
I can use, the mouse, the text. I can, literally draw on it and got somebody doing shapes. But their original one, I've got my spotlighter now, as to kind of a red mouse pointer as well. And when you if you really spend some time on it and then maybe share it, I always find that speakers enjoy working with me. I enjoy working with them, and I think one of the reasons why is I always try to give them some kind of new nugget, something new that they go, that's cool. I did not know I could do that, right? And just give them that experience to make their next presentation, whether it's with me or somebody else, maybe just a little bit better, because they know a little bit more about, Zoom. And I keep threatening to put together a recording about, Zoom and Zoom moderating and so forth, whatever you want to call it, that starts with this. So you think you know Zoom, huh? Like there are so many, moving parts and toolbars and tool options, menu options that they show up and then they don't. I don't necessarily love the way the GUI's put together in Zoom. Traditionally Windows programs, Mac programs have always been delivered with all the menu options, and some of them, based on the context of the moment, are grayed out and then they enable, right? But you always see them, like that's where those options are. And in Zoom, like if I share, I think I can do this. I'll share my Zoom gallery. Now you've got my gallery, and under my view button, I've got speaker and gallery. Now I'm telling you, that's exactly the same place I can say follow host order, but not until I cause it to show it to me. You know, like that's where it is, but it's not there right now. And so you think, well, it's not there. So if I drag Marty to the top left and Kurt to the next slot and I reorder this, then I've caused it to have to give me the choice to potentially tell the audience to follow the host video order. And so now it's there, or I can release this video order as well. But you know, if I release it, now they're gone. If I move one box, now it's there. And so I can say follow host order, and now you'll dynamically, your gallery will change right in front of you, you know, because it's locked in. But it's that type of development. And the same thing happens with some of the bottom menus, the more menu and so forth, is until it's you know, it will only show items. I think this is the guiding rule. It will only show an item that's actively clickable. It's like, I would rather see disabled items in a drop-down menu so that I can train my brain of where it is. And yeah, and so that's what really makes, you know, I think Zoom challenging is when you have, you know, when corporate America says, yeah, we want to use Zoom, all they're saying really is our people are used to connecting to it. Our IT group has already made it safe on our networking. It can get through our firewalls and so forth. There's good reason for that. It's not to say that their speakers are really savvy with it necessarily as speakers. It's just to say that they, you know, they're really good connecting with it. It's installed on all their devices and so forth. So, you know, that's what makes it so
Hey, Jeff.
interesting. And so it's custom behaviors too, or unique behaviors that are kind of undocumented. And I kind of think that's what we do really well in the kitchen, is find those behaviors that are kind of weird, but now we know. So yeah, go ahead, Marcus.
Sorry, Jeff. Does that affect the YouTube, what goes out to YouTube if you stream it? If you follow host order?
If you're having Zoom stream it,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's I'll first say 2 or 3 Zoom test kitchens ago. So it's in the archives. We focused almost the entire Zoom test kitchen on Zoom streaming. And so when you get a chance, just go back and look like either 2 or 3 recordings ago, because it'll say a lot more than what I'm going to say right now. There's I think on gallery, I think the answer is yes on gallery view, on follow host order. And so let's do this. The Zoom test kitchen is a live workshop, so I am going to, I'm streaming to the Zoom test kitchen, YouTube and Facebook right now. So I'm going to add to that. I'm going to go to my Stream Sharks YouTube, if you'll bear with me, and we'll just test this out. You good with that?
Yes, sir. It would probably be indicative to hope that it's whatever the host is presenting is what's going to go out through the feed from Zoom.
Well, the thing is streaming from Zoom is usually anything but what you expect. It doesn't do multi-spotlighting, you know, and so forth. So it, let me see, there's that. Yeah, there's that. I think we're there. Let me get YouTube ready.
I don't think it follows host pin as well.
No,
It only
pins are
follows
personal.
spotlight.
Yeah, pins are all
well,
personal.
it follows. It'll follow a single spotlight, and it is derived from the active host machine. That is true. Okay, so there's that. Let me tell it to go live. I'm on YouTube. Okay. So let me copy the stream key. Let me get you the URL that I'm going to be streaming to. I'm going to put in the chat the YouTube URL I'm going to be streaming to.
Can I just say, Jeff, that's one of the reasons we tend to request people pin their view instead of presenting a showcase, or I'm sorry, a spotlight. Because what can happen from the viewer's perspective is even if the host is spotlighting something to that person, they could have manually pinned any other thing that's in that Zoom up onto their screen themselves personally. And that'll take away that bounce in a lot of cases. So you just have to be careful on which way
in
you
a
do it.
meeting. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, in a meeting for sure. Yeah, that's the biggest difference between webinar and meeting, right? Is they can get what I want them to get, which is webinar, and they might see what I'd like them to see. That's meetings, you know, because they can still change their view. All right, so I'm set up on YouTube. I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I'm doing, and that is I'm going to go down here to more, and I'm going to tell it to stream on live on YouTube. It will pop up a browser and say, hey, who are you? And I'll tell it my StreamSharks account. And it says broadcast Zoom meeting 2. And the title is the Zoom Test Kitchen. We'll make sure it's the right one just by putting the date in there as well. And the privacy, we can go public on that. That's fine.
So Jeff, can I hold you right there?
Yeah.
So when I do this, that go live button is not lit up unless I've separately in a different browser window logged into my YouTube account.
Yep, like that.
Yeah. So I have to log into my YouTube account and get to a screen that looks like that before I can
this
go
has
live.
to be here, and it has to be waiting for a stream to begin. Yeah, so
Yeah, okay.
so I did. I went
So
to
it's
go
not
live.
really a one. It's not really a one-click stream.
Not for YouTube. Yeah, some of them can be. Some platforms, if it's RTMP, there's platforms that can just kind of start, but they have to be ready somehow. Like, my church is I can schedule it and it will build it in the cloud and it'll just sit there and keep waiting until an RTMP stream shows up. But yeah, if it's the API, which is what I'm about to use from Zoom, this is the API method versus if I go back to here, this is the API method for Facebook and YouTube. This one live on custom live streaming service, that's going to be an RTMP experience. And that gives me, it wants the streaming URL and the streaming key and the page URL in which the stream is going to be displaying on. And then you can also check mark this box. Custom streaming service requires authentication. If you have to authenticate on the fly, you can check that so that it will allow you to go. So, and this is the stopping point, by the way. The ability to have this pop-up web page of either flavor, either the API or not. If you don't have the credentials, you aren't on a paid account. You're not part of the same organization as the originating host of the meeting, and so forth. That's where you get stopped. You can have the button, you can tell it to stream, but when it tries to open it up in the web page to actually configure it to that meeting and start the stream, that's where if you don't meet those 3 pieces of requirements that we talked about earlier, this is where you'll be dead in the water. And so you have to really test it all the way in order to see that it's going to work successfully or not. So let me put the state back in, 8, 6, and we'll tell it to go live there. This meaning that you all got this notice, right? That it's now being live streamed. I'm going to stop the share. Anybody seeing it yet? I'm not.
Mine says live stream offline. Hold on, let me see. Got it open. Yeah, you're on the Zoom.
I see it now. I wonder if I gave you a bad link. Here, I'll put it in the chat one more time. This is the one that it is showing up on. You know, yeah, it's definitely different. Okay, but it is out there.
30-second delay.
Yeah,
Should be around
re-click
6
on the
seconds
link in
on
the
the
chat
API.
now.
Yeah. Now.
Have you been clocking those delays, Jeff, to find out the differences between the API and the RTMP feeds?
I have about 30 seconds on both of them, and I haven't changed. Like my YouTube latency setting, I think is just on low latency. You can put it on normal, low, or ultra low. I've only kept it on low latency so far, not ultra.
I got a little trick for you. Next time you go live to Facebook yourself through vMix, use the virtual camera on vMix and just go through the live stage as a webcam on Facebook and see how little delay you have there.
My Facebook is great. My Facebook is actually kind of the lowest latency.
You should come in around 6 seconds. You should get close to 6 seconds if you're using the virtual camera directly into the API on the face of, rather than coming in through the live producer. Just go in through the live button on the front page of your profile or your page and start up. Don't use an event. Just go ahead and broadcast and see if you get a little faster delay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I go into my YouTube channel and I just click up on the go live, and I don't schedule anything. I just tell it to go live and grab that. So but YouTube has got a longer delay. I'll have to test it out versus Facebook for sure. So I'll give it a shot. But anyways, so you guys all, you see the stream right now? You see the gallery view, right? It's a 6 up right now. And I haven't done anything. Right? I'm still on my gallery view on my desktop, and that's what it's showing. But what's missing, point out like what's missing. My gallery view in Zoom shows non-video users. And so the stream from Zoom naturally, don't let anybody tell you you have to turn off non-video users before you stream. You don't. It won't stream them. And so it's not a killer, if you turn them off, but there's no need to have to worry about it or have kind of an oh shit moment that you didn't and you think it's streaming until you check and you realize they're not there. They don't get streamed by default. So the question was from Marcus, does the order follow? what's the answer to you guys from what you're seeing? Mine doesn't match. Like in Zoom, I see Marty, Kuhn, Kurt, Marcus, Jeff, and then Ward would be my order.
Yeah, you
And-
slid some around, didn't you?
What's that?
You slid some people on the panel around a little bit, right?
I did well. I think the last thing I did was Marty only. So I'm going to right now. I'm going to move me. I'm going to put me up top. I'm going to put Marcus, then Marty, then Kuhn, then Kurt, and then Ward. That'll be the order.
Yeah,
Did anything? So the question is it's not that we're looking. Of course, it
Well,
won't
it'll
immediately
take 20
change.
seconds or so to
Yeah,
see
yeah.
the change.
Let's wait the time and see if there's any shift in that. As a matter of fact, I can turn on my speaker. I'm just moving in the stream right now. I'm talking about dragging you around.
Yeah, I'm just seeing 6 people in my picture off of the YouTube playback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the shift, like in the stream, I just talked about doing it and I did it, and there was no change in the stream at all. So locking that on is nothing that will be broadcast from Zoom streaming. Now, so I'm going to release that. I'm going to release the video order. Now we're back to natural order in Zoom, and I'm going to spotlight Marcus. Well, first I'm going to pin you. So I'm gonna on my computer only. I'm pinning Marcus, and I'm gonna listen to myself on the YouTube here real quick to see when I do that. Okay, here I'm talking about pinning Marcus now. Do you happen to see me spotlighted in the YouTube right now? That's that when I released the video order, it went to active speaker mode, right? And my pinning made no difference. Which doesn't shock me, like pin is a local thing, right? And so deriving what gets streamed, the rule is from the host computer, isn't like totally literal in the sense that really what I'm seeing, even if it's a pin. So I'm going to remove the pin of Marcus, and now I'm going to spotlight Marcus. And now it looks the same on my screen, but it's a spotlight instead of a pin. Again, I'm going to listen to myself on this and see when I do it. Feels like I've got about a 15 to 20 second delay on the stream right now, which is not bad. Okay. So now on my YouTube, it's got Marcus spotlighted, and I'm gonna keep talking for a moment and make sure that I don't trump that on the stream, that a spotlight is a lock, if you will. And that should be, in fact, a lock. Now in Zoom, I'm going to go ahead and add, not replace, but add a spotlight of me. So now Marcus and I are side by side in Zoom, and we'll look to see how the stream treats that. I can tell you right now, it won't multi spotlight. Get there in a few seconds. Talk, check, check, check. Active speaker has some to do with it. And so now I see me on the stream. Marcus, why don't you go ahead and talk as well?
Yeah, Jeff, I think you just multi-spotted, and I'm seeing you alone on the feed. I should be active speaker right now, so let's see how that pans out.
Okay, looks like you're about ready to come on.
Okay,
Yep, you're
I
there.
just came in.
So now let's see if you and I bounce back and forth.
So yeah, this seems to be shifting to the active speaker.
Yeah, definitely not a multi-spotlight. Yeah, and now I came on as an active speaker. So then the question is, right now I've got a dual spotlight going. We know it doesn't display, but it's active speaker. The question is it active speaker just between Marcus and Jeff, or is it a wide open active speaker? And so Marty, why don't you add to the conversation? I'm not going to spotlight you, but add you to the audio conversation as well.
All right. So this would be an interesting experiment. I will see how we can add to this choice because would be very useful to know.
And that moment's just coming up now on YouTube here. There we go. And there you are. Marty pops up. So even though I'm spotlighted, double spotlighted on two specific people, the moment you spotlight the result, the behavior is the moment you spotlight more than one individual, you instantly on a stream, you go to an full active speaker mode. So any open mic, any noise, any accidental noise will shift the camera to that camera on the fly, whether you like it or not. So if you
That's
know your
really
stream,
weird. Why do they do that?
oh, who knows? I don't know. I haven't been able to figure all that out. But
It must
Just
be a
confirmed what I
different.
thought I'd
It must
seen.
be a
All right.
different feed that's going out. They're sending out to Zoom. They can't be sending the program feed because we would see the dual pin.
yeah. What's getting sent? What's that, Leland?
It's a default grid of some kind that always gets broadcast, and if it breaks the grid due to bandwidth, it's going to go back and forth from single to single. It won't be able to send all that bandwidth on a 49 grid if it starts breaking bandwidth.
Yeah. So then you go, okay, let's get creative. And because I really want a double spotlight. And so I'm going to go to gallery view and I'm going to remove all spotlights, go to gallery view. I'm going to, just to be really explicit, I'm going to tell my Zoom client to hide non-video participants. So I can see 6 or 7 actually. And I'll wait for YouTube to show. So YouTube's now showing the gallery view. And what I want to do is get explicit. It's like I really want the view of a double spotlight of Jeff and Marty. So I'm going to ask, Ward is not, I don't know if Ward is still there and listening or not, but so let me do a double spotlight with Ward and Jeff. I'm not really going to spotlight. I'm going to resort to probably, my least desirable piece, and that's having my potential speakers in the meetings manage their cameras. And I'm going to ask Marcus, Marty, Kurt, Cohn, and Leland to shut off your cameras, mute your cameras, so that it only leaves me and Ward side by side. And so that's a gallery view as I desire it, because I'm having you guys willingly manage your cameras, which is a massive danger zone. Like if somebody comes popping in and, you know, all that jazz, that's a problem. But in the meantime, you can see in YouTube, it's now paring down to what looks like a double spotlight, but it's really not. It's just a gallery where we've explicitly managed all the other cameras off. And then Marcus pops in Zoom. I can see that Marcus just turned it back on, unbeknownst. He may have just shown up in the meeting, even. You know what I'm saying? And that will eventually show itself here in the YouTube stream as well. And so, you know, dare, if you will, get creative. Now, if it's for a recording or something that's very manageable, or if you only have two people, you know, and they're broadcasting something, and you know, now you know you can't dual spotlight them, but you could because they're the only two, then you can shut your camera off as the host, put them both on, put your system into gallery view. Boom, you have a side-by-side spotlight, you know, and because it's small enough and that danger goes away because there's not a whole bunch of people there that, you know, could turn cameras on and so forth. So it's
Yeah,
just,
Jeff,
you know, my whole thing is just know the behaviors, you know.
yeah, I never understood why they didn't give the host the ability to just mute the camera on all participants, even if it was individual or all at once.
Well, I
So that-
can. So I can
Turn 'em
turn.
on.
I just turned wards off. I can stop video, but I can't restart it. I can only
Yeah,
request it be restarted.
and that's reasonable. It was just a matter of being able to flip through them all at once and turn on those that you wish you could. That would have been
Yeah.
an awesome feature, but there's also the privacy rights that you have to deal with.
Yeah. You know, the only way, you know, around really like full control, if I wanted to literally be the one in control, you'd have to have, you know, Zoom OSC Pro on everybody's computers and be remote controlling them from, you know, my stream deck, if you will. So but I can mute them. I just you know, and the other thing is well, what if I were to say allow participants, that's under the security shield, allow participants to start video, and I uncheck that. Now I stop Marty's video. Now I've got the two up that I want, and now the accident should go away. So now Marty or anybody here, go ahead and try to turn your camera back on.
Yeah, it don't work.
And you can't. So now when I want Marty to come back, thing is, can I see him? The answer is not in the, I can tell you right now, not in the participants list. Can I see anything about Marty's camera? But I'm pretty sure this is another one of those kind of silly behaviors.
Hey, Jeff.
If I go to, yeah.
On the YouTube, I'm seeing Ward's picture. Please stand by there with you and Marcus. Is that what you're seeing?
I did, but it
Okay.
since went away.
Oh,
I
okay.
think if
Just
you
that
wait a little
delay,
bit longer,
whatever.
it should. Yeah, that's a pretty significant delay. So I think I just identified something fresh to me. So because I don't allow participants to turn cameras on, I have if I go to Marty and I say I want his camera to come on, I have mute, chat, pin, hide, make host, make co-host, rename. I don't have the ability to even try to turn on or request his camera to be turned on. Now don't turn anything on, but I'm going to enable that ability to start video. And now I, the host, can ask Marty to start his video, and he'll get a request on his screen.
Yeah, I did.
To see that. And so it even takes my ability, like if I kill the ability to turn on your video, it's kind of cool in a sense, but it limits even you, the host, to request it to come back on, and until you turn that back on. Now, the exception to that is, so here I'm going to disable the ability to start video again. Was that you that shut your camera off, or me, Marty?
I did.
Yeah, I was going to say it must have been you, because me killing the ability to start video does not kill anybody's video, but it happened to occur at the same time. So now I am going to say, okay, Marty, you are now a co-host, and and with that, you can override my limitation on everybody else. So nobody can start their video except host and co-host. And so if you dare to make somebody a co-host, you could do that kind of speaker by speaker by speaker, right? And
Yeah, and as a
manage it that way.
co-host, I have the ability to turn your camera off.
Correct.
So what's interesting is that for participants who are non-co-hosts, you can restrict them from being able to turn their camera on, but you can't unrestrict them on a person by person basis. It's everybody
Correct.
or
Yeah,
nobody.
it's the whole room, and the only way to make it person by person is by giving them co-host, and that will let them, override. So yeah, so there's just some thoughts, creativity, whether you tap into it. I'm going to turn camera's ability to turn them back on so we can come back on now. All right. So it's kind of a bummer. I'm doing this testing to a, custom stream on one of my other pages, and people on the stream aren't getting to see it. I apologize for that, you guys. But I've only got so much that I'm capturing. So my streaming is coming from, I have a machine logged in as streamer who, shows, and I capture that into vMix via NDI and then stream it out so that I can stream what I want to stream, right? Whether it's gallery or multi-spotlights and so forth there. So, but having this extra browser to a different site and so forth on the fly kind of took that away from the audience out there. So sorry about that. I will have a recording of it. Maybe I'll post it after the Zoom Test Kitchen is done, so that you can actually see the results of the stream we've been looking at that has been coming from Zoom. Anything else you want to do on that before I kill that Zoom stream, Marcus, or anybody else?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, it's let's do one more thing. Just thought about this. So let me well, as a matter of fact, this will show it to the audience. Let me share my monitor that has that YouTube stream up, and while I have the share up inside of Zoom, you may, depending on what your single monitor or dual monitor mode is set to, you may see a side by side, right? A small picture of me speaking as active speaker, which is what I see on my streamer computer. But on the stream itself, I see the full screen share and a little picture in the top right corner. You guys seeing that? And that's the same thing. So, and that's all you're ever going to get there too. So same thing. There's really no changes you can make to that on the stream. That is the way share, like a PowerPoint or whatnot. It's shared out there. So if I were to replace, let's say it's active speaker mode right now. Let me, Marty or Marcus, go ahead and talk as well. And I'll just let the stream actively switch between active speaker mode.
All right. So, another option here is to No, that wouldn't apply. I was thinking using OBS to configure your screen, but that takes a lot more equipment.
It does, yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of audio routing and all kinds of stuff, right? So I'm gonna,
But what?
while you're talking, Marty, I've now spotlighted you, and we'll see in the stream. We'll go from active speaker, but now
So
and
now,
maybe I'll,
I'm seeing an infinity image from Zoom.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's true because of the way I'm sharing and capturing back into and so forth. So that's a little screwy right now,
Mhm.
admittedly. If I were to, let me share a PowerPoint instead. Mhm. Okay. All right, so that should be a little bit better there.
Now, this was your AV Tech Summit presentation?
Yeah. And I'm just trying to get back to the stream real quick so I can see that real quickly. Yeah, okay. So it's still the picture-in-picture top right, but with a PowerPoint instead. We're in Zoom.
You're seeing YouTube way before I see YouTube.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I'm about another 10 or 15 seconds behind you.
Huh. But just the same, it's always the picture-in-picture. If you have a spotlight, a single spotlight, it'll lock in on that speaker. But if you have no spotlight or more than one spotlight, that picture-in-picture will become active speaker. So just to be aware that even though Spotlight really doesn't spotlight via a Zoom stream, a single spotlight does in fact lock the speaker in, which is still a benefit, just not a big picture is all like a real spotlight would be.
Now, when you have the choice, when you have multiple cameras, local cameras, and you're also doing playback, so you have the choice of screen sharing your playback and using your cameras through OBS. But you also have the option of playing back through OBS and not sharing, right? So OBS to the Zoom camera. Is there any difference in resolution?
There can be, but the sharing will naturally, if you don't check optimize, it'll naturally share at the monitor's resolution. So if I share my vMix desktop right now, if you bring up your Zoom statistics, if I pull that into the share, you'll see that my share is being sent out at 2K, right? 2560 by 1440 in the Zoom screen sharing statistics screen.
I'm seeing sending at 640. There it goes. Just jumped up to 1280 by 720.
That's what tab are you on? Overall audio, video, or screen share?
Video.
Yeah, go to screen share.
Oh, screen share. Right. You're screen sharing. 2560 by 1440.
Yeah.
Is what
so
I'm
you're
receiving.
getting the full resolution. So you get a really high resolution of my screen share. And it it never used to do this. I don't know if I can't figure out whether it's an account thing, because guy who sponsors the zKitchen's Zoom accounts for 1080, whether it's his enterprise account that also is giving us a good frame rate even at 1440. Normally you take a serious hit on the frame rate while you get a high resolution. Like my video camera right now, its send is actually still 1080, which I'm really surprised because normally it kind of blend between the two. But if I stop this share and restart it, but this time I'm going to check the boxes to optimize the video clip for video and sound. Now I'm going to share it again. Then, first thing is how does it look? Second is to bring up the statistics again. And now it's still a screen share, but you can see that when I told it to optimize it, it's got it taken down to 720.
Yeah.
It's really optimized now for bandwidth than clarity, and which gives them more room for improved frame rate potentially, right? But it's actually knocked it down from 2K to entry level HD, right, at 720, and then
Actually, right
the
now it
camera,
says 360
say 360 right now.
for screen
Yeah,
sharing.
so
on my
it's
end.
it's gonna vary. I mean, and my send says I'm sending it at 1080, but
Yeah, I'm
but
getting 1080.
yeah,
Let's see,
but
let me
everybody,
make it full screen.
yeah,
It didn't make a
yeah.
difference before with the skill. Okay, so now it just jumped up to 720. So when you had the still frame share, and I brought my window down really small, it
Oh yeah,
still had it at 1440. But with video optimized, my window size makes a difference in my
made a difference.
receiving
Yeah,
bandwidth. Yeah.
yeah. Good catch. Good
Although
catch.
now it's down to 360 again,
Yeah, I wonder if
and
you
I'm
have
full
anything
screen.
more contributing to that, bandwidth wise or whatnot as well. So if I stop that share
Mhm.
and then let's say instead let's let me add an NDI feed to vMix, and I'm going to capture my second monitor. Maybe, let's see. That's, and this is Pro Capture. This feed, although it's going to get into an infinite loop. But anyways, that is the same thing as using, although it's a horrible image to use, but it's a live feed of another output of my vMix, and so it's a virtual camera is the point. So statistically, if we went to statistics now, it's not a screen share. It's strictly video. It's delivering at 1080 at 30 frames. So the frame rate is up because it's the video camera, where the share was like 24 to 25 frames on my send side anyways. And so, it depending on the circumstances, it can definitely, make a difference. I could do.
I can now on my screen video, on my video receive, I can toggle between receiving 360 and 720 by stopping and starting the YouTube stream.
The stream that's going, that I'm sending out there right now.
Yeah, so I've got it open in a browser window, and if I stop or start the video, I can
I
toggle
wonder,
between.
I'd say open a browser window and run a speed test right now. See where your bandwidth is. It almost feels like it's kind of on the decision-making boundary for Zoom.
Well, let's see, I'll open up the speed test app. Waiting for it to load up. Go.
Moon is back.
My download is more than 700. Yeah, more than 700.
Huh. Very interesting.
And upload is 575. Now it could be load on my computer.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, CPUs as well. I did. I had a new experience for me for a customer not too long ago, and that was the need, knowing that we had a need in the meeting that was coming up to be able to open and create 100 breakout rooms. And so let me, I want to find this matrix first and show it to you, because I knew what I was up against. So this is what you can know going into it. It says these numbers apply to breakout rooms created during a meeting. Up to 200 participants can be pre-assigned. Number of breakout rooms, you can get 20 with up to 500 people. You can get 30 with up to 400 people, or 50 with up to 200 participants. And then you and it says the max capacities listed require a large meeting add-on. The other is, excuse me, Zoom support can increase the maximum capacity of your account's breakout rooms to allow up to 100 breakout rooms with a maximum capacity of 1,000 per breakout room. So it's a lot of people, 100 breakout rooms at 1,000 a piece. It all requires, if you had this enabled, so if I put in the request to enable the 100 breakout rooms, then you are instantly enforcing that requirement for anybody who ever attends your meetings again. So we're on what, 5.7.4 I think right now. So it's pretty easy to meet 5.2 or higher, but you just have to realize that is going to be a requirement from that date forward if you get that enabled. So you reach out. I called Zoom support, got on the phone, asked them. I was under the impression that I thought I had heard these numbers had loosened up a bit, but the person I spoke to said, no, I still have to put in a request. I said, that's fine. Go ahead and put in a request then on my account. And so they sent me an email. All I had to do was reply to it, and just a simple request: please increase my breakout room count to 100. And it was, and he just reminded me about the 5.2 client and higher, and I okayed that, and it was done. So pretty painless to make happen, but definitely took, you would want to do that. I would say, I would say good guidance would be a minimum of 4 days before the event, an absolute minimum of 2, but you're really taking your chances on timeliness. And, 2 to 4 days out. I mean, in all essence, it was probably, I'll say, a 48-hour turnaround, because, once the support person owns the ticket, they own the ticket, and you don't necessarily know what time zone they're in. And so the reply back and forth is the time for them to get it done is not a real big deal. And it worked flawless. We opened up. It was the first time I had opened up, 100 breakout rooms and distributed almost 600 people into them. And it was impressively fast. I mean, they were all gone within, like, I don't know, 10 to 20 seconds at the most. They were all gone and could come back just about as quickly. So it was good. It worked really well. Anything else, guys? That's kind of what I've got. Anything else you want to run with, test with, find out, dig into? Happy to do it.
There was something that came up. I had a conversation with Zoom. So you have a series of meetings, and somebody was being disruptive at the end of the meeting. So the meeting ends, and it's a registered meeting. So you can go into your registrations and cancel their registration, but that doesn't prevent them from re-registering.
Uh-huh.
What I was hoping to be able to do was to bar them from the meeting offline. So to prevent them from coming back into a meeting. Apparently you can't do that. You can only bar them or boot them from within a meeting. So you have to be in a meeting
Yeah.
for you to be able to boot them.
The instance, the offense that takes place has to happen in a meeting in order for you to remove them. And then what you're counting on, I'll bring this up, is under settings, is if we look for the word like rejoin, you're counting on them. This is allow removed participants to rejoin. I have it enabled. So if I boot somebody, they can rejoin. I just won't let them through the waiting room again. And it says allows previously removed participants and webinar panelists to rejoin. If you have that off, then when you, I'll drag my Zoom window over here. Then when you remove somebody, I can't remove a co-host, but if I were to remove Ward, then he won't be able to come back in. If I had it on, or if I had that off, which means I can't rejoin, then he would not be able to rejoin the meeting itself. So you kind of have to be prepared behind the scenes first before the meeting starts, and then they have to offend you during the meeting for you to do that. What you're asking for, the only way Zoom can really cater to that is require registration that also requires approved registration, not automatically approved registration. And that lets you just simply not approve their registration. That's the only other way you could stop them. Let them register and just never hit approve. And then they'll never get an invite, and they'll never get a real invite to the meeting because they don't get an actual invite to the meeting until you hit approve, and that's when it kicks out that invite.
Problem with that is that, and for some, and it happened here too, with this meeting. For some reason, you have to register. You try to go into a meeting, and you find that you're hit with a registration screen. You have to re-register. So at the beginning of the meeting, you could have any number of people registering, and if you had to approve them all at the beginning while your meeting is already starting, that would be a real burden.
Yeah. Oh no, I totally agree in that sense. Let me look at a meeting here real quick. Yeah, so these So I've got this is a customer meeting that not that I mean it's their meeting for their customers that I'm hosting and providing the account for, but they wanted registration turned on, and so I've got that turned on. There's 16, but it's on automatic approval, and
Yep.
and so it looks like they've all been approved already, but with that if you were to kill the automatic approval under the settings, then you can do that. But yeah, the closer you get to the event, then webinars give you a little bit more flexibility on being able to like close the registration and things like that as you get closer to, or you have a cutoff date or whatnot. But and if it's a meeting, you can convert. I don't know if you've ever converted a meeting to a webinar or a webinar to a meeting. You can bounce those back and forth depending on that, so you don't lose your meeting ID for those that you've already approved, but now you want to make it a webinar, and even though you've approved 50 people, and then you convert it to a webinar, the link will still work for them, and so it's fairly flexible. But blacklisting somebody, they got to do something wrong first in a meeting. You can report too, turn on the reporting so that they end up in the Zoom trust committee that you can actually, follow up on and tell them, something was, seriously inappropriate and this and that. And, like if it happens to be something legal or
Well,
whatnot.
What if it's not somebody who is actually acting inappropriately, just somebody you want to deny entry to the meeting without the burden of having to manually approve everyone?
Yeah, that's you'd have to. Yeah, I don't know of any other way.
I have to agree with Marty on that right there. The simple fact that we can't do any type of geo-tracking or have the ability to whitelist or blacklist any IP addresses for a meeting as a protocol kind of lacks from our end to be able to control that. So it's something you would do in a lot of other aspects to be able to block people from other social avenues. It's there, its ability's always been there. But in Zoom itself, you can't really block anyone from coming into these meetings if they have a link.
You
waiting
can
rooms, of course, but we get that. We're just referring to if somebody has the ability. That's why we're so concerned with making sure we can authenticate Zoom account users as those who attend meetings. We don't let people use the browser link to come in as well for that same reason, because you can come in randomly off of any email address through the browser into a Zoom meeting, not a webinar, but into a Zoom meeting. So you have to be careful letting people in from the browser rather than the client itself, because there's different security protocols in the browser.
Yeah.
So I always
and the closest they get on blocking is countries and regions. Yes, and you can scroll, but it's pretty broad. It's certainly not going to be an individual or an individual IP, but that's and
what if they said that actually that blocks entry from a country based on its geographical location only? So that could be any participant, and that limits you in the case that maybe you don't want the extreme end of things from that particular country to come in, but maybe one of your special guests is in India. So what do you do? I mean, that's a very difficult line for us to cross sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I can find any other hints or guidance on this.
Well, that's primarily why we build our own event login and registration platforms rather than using anything like Eventbrite or like I mentioned earlier today. It's one of our keys to having a fully secure web meeting is having that ability to have assigned users who have Zoom accounts be the only people who can come in. That way we know exactly who those people are. We don't have to worry about anonymous names and anonymous emails. We have fully registered people within the Zoom environment, let's say, that could be tracked back if there were severe complications during a broadcast. You'd be able to follow up on that.
Has anybody built a good third-party registration system that works?
Colin's working on one right now.
Yeah.
I know someone else mentioned, I think it was Ken Jones today was talking about one that he's working on also. So I'm sure there's a lot of IT professionals out there that fully understand how to get fully registered Zoom users authenticated for a registration process. It's not that difficult. It's really just a matter of a few database, connections and having people sign in with an actual registered account. It's not that much to ask, but for some of the high C levels, it's sometimes difficult to get them to come in on their actual account. Sometimes they're on corporate accounts, sometimes they're on someone else's account because of their location at the time. They just jump into a Zoom meeting that somebody else fired up for them. So you really kind of have to request that ahead of time before the event even takes place to know that anyone coming to speak or be present at that event needs to be registered. It's really a decision of the client. PHI in the end was deciding maybe not, let's not worry about it. Let's just give the links out. But then they realized someone could share that link and just about anybody could come in after that. If it was, and this was a purchased link, you're talking a few $100s a ticket. So it's not a mild entry.
I'm looking at some stats on the back end on the enterprise account. And I mean, I definitely can see, on the dashboard, everybody's individual IP address and locations,
Exactly.
looking at, let's see, make sure I'm in the right. This is Marty is in Silver Spring.
Mm-hmm.
How close is that?
Right on.
Right on. Okay.
Yeah. And you've
Says-
seen this in a report, right?
Yeah, it's the dashboard. I can't share. It wouldn't be right to share it because there's a lot of
Yeah,
detail
that's
here.
okay.
But Zoom. I mean, it is a Zoom dashboard on. I believe it's on their business and enterprise accounts. And it says Kuhn is in Hugenveen. That true? I don't know if he's listening. Are you there, Kuhn? He's working. Leland says you're in Owasso.
Owasso's the sister city right next door to Corona.
Okay, so yeah, and then your IPs are there and so forth as well. Now, if I drill down, let me go here. Guess you'll not be able to view their local IP again. Let me drill down into somebody and see if there's anything else. I think it's more just about kind of results and info, not necessarily in the future don't allow, right? I'm not seeing any of that.
So you really can't block any user that's been present in a meeting from the dashboard for future events, is what you just said, correct?
Yeah, I'm trying to scan this dashboard and see if there's anything like that, and I'm not seeing anything
They have other
there.
webinar platforms that I run that I'm pretty sure I can block users that I have pushed out of webinars previously to ever be able to come into my webinar platform.
Yeah, but how strong is that word ever? Like
they can just
you're
change
blocking them by what? I mean, households
30
don't
seconds.
commonly have, they don't commonly have like fixed IPs forever. And and they can always, create another account. And, I mean, most of our identifying pieces of who we are, be it username or email or whatnot, can all be, recreated in moments as well. So the forever's tough to achieve. But I can see, like with Marty on this dashboard, I can even see your CPU usage. Like, when you were, you have definitely had times. So at 1620, which is 4:20, 9 minutes ago, your CPU was at 95%. So you got something cranking. And as a matter of fact, just 1626, just 4 minutes ago, you were at 85%. So there, yeah, your CPU is, you were right. You guessed, yeah, it might be my computer, and you're right. Your CPU is getting a bit hammered by something.
Yep, I've got a lot open here.
Gotcha.
What do you see for a mobile device then, Jeff? I'm on a Pixel right now.
Yeah, I think I drilled into you, and I don't think I get data on that. Yeah, it says I mean, I can see who is connected via Wi-Fi or wired, and I can see, Leland, you're on Wi-Fi. If I drill down, I don't think, it doesn't provide me any
Probably because I'm
audio,
running cellular data right now. Yeah.
video. Yeah, it doesn't pass any of that on. So pretty handy, but yeah, it doesn't look like there's a way to kind of lock you down. It's not, at least this area that I'm looking at is not meant for that.
All right, well, gentlemen,
So,
I'm gonna have to bail for the afternoon. I appreciate everything you're doing here, Jeff. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, pleasure. I'll as soon as I have a date for the new date for the events, Zoom events platform and visitors and so forth, I'll let everybody know, and we'll plan on circling back next week.
So let's get together this weekend on the PHI event so we can discuss the last two tech meetings we had real quick, and then
Sounds good. This weekend will be good. My wife works on the weekends, so my time is more available on Saturday, Sundays than during the week even. So yeah, let's connect. All right, everybody. Hey, appreciate you coming out, spending time, helping me always learn something new as well. That's what I dig about it the most. So
thanks for doing this every week.
Yeah, absolute pleasure.
Thank
We'll
you, Jeff.
wrap it up with a little bit of music and slides for the stream in the archives, but we'll see everybody maybe next Thursday on the Zoom OSC Test Kitchen, or next Friday here at the Zoom Test Kitchen. So we'll talk later.